Good morning. Welcome to Unity of Lexington. Wherever you are on your spiritual path, you are welcome here. So we're going to begin this morning with a song that I came across by a woman by the name of Karen Taylor Good. And that's a hyphenated last name, Taylor Good. And it's taken from her album, Let the Light In. And there are two CDs in here. One CD is about laughing, singing, and dancing, and the other is about reflecting, pondering, and contemplating. So this song today is taken from the Reflect, Ponder, and Contemplate CD, and it's called If Not for Love. And I sure hope you can make out all the words. It's a beautiful, beautiful song.
He sits on a sidewalk and holds up a sign. Please help me, I'm hungry, but we just walk by. And it's colder than ever, the cold of the heart that builds up the stone walls that keep us apart. And what are we here for, if not for love, if not for each other? How can we be enough to get through the darkness and still rise above? What are we here for, if not for love? I don't know the reason we can't get along. Seems like everyone's fighting about who's right and who's wrong. Maybe you wear a gold cross and I wear a star, just to keep us from seeing how connected we are. And what are we here for, if not for love, if not for each other? How can we be enough to get through the darkness and still rise above? What are we here for, if not for love? And must we wait until the world all goes to hell to love our neighbor as ourselves? What are we here for, if not for love, if not for each other? How can we be enough to get through the darkness and still rise above? What are we here for, if not for love? To get through the darkness and still rise above. if not for love. If not for
Wow. What are we here for if not for love? Wow. I don't know. I think some of us think we're here for other reasons, maybe to accumulate stuff. Who knows? Well, good morning again. I'm glad you're with me this morning. I noticed so far I have Trish with us, and Megan is her first time. Welcome, Megan. I'm glad you're with us. And then Linda and Mac and all their fur babies, I'm sure, are watching too. They have horses and dogs and cats and all kinds of wonderful little animals out there at the farm. Wendy out in Arizona, and she says Bill Hackett is visiting. I'm pretty sure I know Bill Hackett, but it's like I'm racking my brain. I'm wondering if I knew him from when I was in Fort Wayne. Anyway, welcome, Wendy. Welcome, Bill. Glad you guys are with me. So we'll begin with our announcements. The first thing I want to say is that we're a tithing community. So we will be tithing, of course, this month and next. Sometimes I combine the months because we don't have a large financial balance to tithe from. So I'll combine the two. So I think I'm combining the two from last month and this month. But I've decided we voted as a congregation to tithe to about 4 different organizations here locally, like Dare to Care, or no, I think it's called Food Bank. Anyway, but I decided, in view of Hurricane Ida and everything that had happened up the coast, that we would tithe to the Red Cross. So I hope everyone's in agreement with that. I'm kind of out here on a limb by myself as we're not meeting in person and making these decisions. I had 5 people that were on my council when we shut down back in March a year ago. And two of the people have made their transitions, gotten their angel wings. So that left 3 of us, and one of them resigned because of COVID and the fear of, getting COVID and not wanting to meet and wear masks and things like that. So it just left myself and one other woman, Nettie. So Nettie and I are doing our best to make decisions. So I hope it's okay with everyone that we tithe to the Red Cross this month and not the ones that we voted on. Hopefully when we meet in person again, whenever that will be, we can make decisions. I can recruit a full council of 4 or 5 people, and we can move on from there. All right, I hope everyone's doing well today. Let's begin with our prayer list. Our prayer list is very powerful. Please email me if you want me to, Trish says, we trust you. Thank you, Trish. I appreciate that. I prayed about it. So anyway, our prayer list is very powerful. If you want me to pray with you, please email me at revcarol with an E, at revcarolunity@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to do that. We've had some real miracles. So we begin by praying for peace and harmony in our community, in our nation, in our world, for divine wisdom and guidance for our national and world leaders. And this prayer is especially relevant given what has happened in Afghanistan. And we still, and will for years to come, mourn the loss of the servicemen and women who gave their lives in service with that war. And for those who tried to help the people fleeing the country. And of course, this weekend, I'm sure you've heard it everywhere, it's the 20th anniversary of 9/11, when the Twin Towers were destroyed. And thousands of people lost their lives. We hold all of them and their grieving families in the light of God. We also are praying for all those affected by the wildfires, the hurricanes, the floods, both nationally, especially nationally, but around the world as well. We pray for all those who have suffered from and transitioned from the coronavirus and for their grieving and families and friends, as well as our first responders, our frontline workers, especially Nicole, who is Nettie's daughter, and Leslie, who is my daughter. And we hold them in prayer. Also, please pray for Mary Jean, for baby James, and his picture is on our Facebook page. If you'll look at that, it's pretty touching. Also for Carol in the loss of her fur baby, little Joe. Seems like lots of people are losing their little fur babies lately. I don't know. It just seems like it to me. Please pray for Diane, for Deborah and her family in the loss of her mother, Gloria, recently. For Lily, Joanne, Joe, Pat, Alicia, Karen, Janet, her sister Cheryl and family in the loss of her brother Jerry, Nettie in the loss of her sister Jenny, Grace, fur babies, Corky, which is Linda and Mac's fur baby, and Maya, which is Deborah's fur baby. And finally, for your prayers, I ask for your prayers for my continued healing from surgery. And thank you so much for your prayers. They have been very powerful. I am still on the mend. I've had a couple of concurrent conditions, which I think is caused maybe from post-COVID. I know I'm understanding that COVID patients have a longer rehabilitation period than those who have not had COVID, and I have had COVID. So, you know, keep me in your prayers because it's just taking me just a little bit longer. But I have hope. And all right. And I thank all of you who are supporting Unity of Lexington. Even though we're not meeting in person, we do still have some bills. A couple of them which are kind of substantial, like our, excuse me, our insurance, our liability insurance and things like that. Hello, Belinda. Glad to see you. Belinda's up in Fort Wayne. You know, I have people scattered all about, which is really great. I love it. I truly love it. Not just here in Lexington, but scattered. So, all right. Anyway, if you want to donate, go to our Facebook page, our public page, and hit the Shop Now button, believe it or not. And that's the way it is, and it's probably going to be that way until we start meeting in person and I find another iTech person to help me. So it takes you straight to PayPal. So, and then if you want to mail it in, if you will go over to the left, there's a column there that says About, and it has our physical mailing address, our post office box listed there. Okay? All right. I chose a daily word from October the 9th. And this is the daily word. I know it's backwards. You all can't see it, but here's the word for today, which is trust. And underneath it is the affirmation. In all things, I put my trust in God. Excuse me. Few things are as comforting as being able to trust completely. Trust means I can relax, knowing I will be supported on my journey. When I trust, I feel comfortable trying new things and taking chances, believing that even if I trip, I'll have help getting up again. I have known trust with some of my family, favorite teachers, colleagues, and friends. I treasure their encouraging words and steadfast presence, excuse me, that helped me grow into the person I am today. But even as people have come and gone, God within me and all around me has remained the steadiest, most enduring presence. I am no longer troubled by the changing world and the impermanence of things because I trust God is with me always. And our scripture for today is taken from the book of Psalms, chapter 28, verse 7. The Lord is my strength and my shield. In God, my heart trusts. I always try to make it gender inclusive. In God, I trust. That's on our money. In God we trust, right? Okay, well, we're going to begin this morning our meditation with music by P. Peterson. He's a wonderful musician in Louisville, Kentucky. He plays at Decca and Jeff Ruby's in Louisville. If you want to go hear him, he is a fabulous jazz musician. He used to play jazz on Sundays for our special music, and he would bring the house down with that jazz. So, and I never was a jazz fan until Pete came along. Well, I am now. Okay, everyone. Let's take a nice deep breath. Okay. And I'll just read this again. In all things, I put my trust in God. The Lord is my strength and my shield, and in God my heart trusts. So just take a nice deep breath. And we'll take a few moments together this morning out of our busy day to contemplate what it means to trust in God. In God, I place my trust. One of my favorite affirmations is, God takes care of me. And of course, you can substitute, God takes care of so-and-so, Susie, James. God takes care of you, fill in the blank. But sometimes when I have some fear going on, sometimes when I'm doubting, I will stop and say, God takes care of me. God takes care of me. The God within me, the presence and the power within me, takes care of me. And I have everything I need. I have all the people, resources, money, whatever I need to move through every experience in life. This is how we trust. We trust that God will be with us in every experience, no matter how difficult. You know, God takes care of me is relevant in the slightest of challenges and in the greatest of challenges. Because in speaking those words, God takes care of me, we are affirming that God is there, that God is present, that God is active in our lives. God takes care of me. God takes care of it all. And I just invite you for a few moments, especially if you're moving through some difficulty right now, some health challenge, some financial challenge, some relationship challenge, you name it. As we go into the silence together and be quiet, within your heart, speak those words to that experience that you're moving through that may be difficult. God takes care of me. Let's go into the silence together, placing our trust in the Holy Spirit, in the whole Spirit of God. As we speak within our heart, God takes care of me. In these few brief moments, we have spoken within our heart the truth of what it is we believe about God. God takes care of me. God takes care of my relationship. God takes care of my finances. God takes care of my health. God takes care of my world. God takes care of everyone I love. God takes care of me. And in God, we place all of our trust. We give our hearts to God this morning in full trust that we are truly and in every way and in all ways cared for. Cared for. So we say thank you, God, for your loving care and for your power and your presence within me, within us, within me. And so it is. Amen. And amen. All right. Sometimes it's hard to come back to this time and place, isn't it? But that we must. Well, all right. The title of my talk this morning is Creation Rather Than Control. That's not an easy one, is it? No, it is not. Because I, at times, can be a control freak. I grew up I'm in what they call an ACOA, adult child of an alcoholic, and both my parents were alcoholics. And people like myself who grow up in chaotic households have a need to have control. So those of you who love me and know me, please forgive me if you understand why I'm at times a control freak. All right. I'm going to begin. I think I've said hello to everyone. If I haven't, I'm glad you're with me. I think if you're a member of our discussion group, your name will pop up on the screen. Otherwise, it will not. All right. So I always like to start with something funny. So this is hilarious, I think. A New Mexico cowboy was overseeing his herd in a remote remote mountainous pasture in New Mexico, when suddenly a brand new BMW advanced out of a dust cloud toward him. The driver, a young man in a Brioni suit, Gucci shoes, Ray-Ban sunglasses, and Yves Saint Laurent tie, leans out the window and asks the cowboy, "If I tell you exactly how many cows and calves you have in your herd, will you give me a calf?" The cowboy looks at the man, obviously a yuppie, and then looks at his peacefully grazing herd and calmly answers, "Sure, why not?" The yuppie parks his car, whips out his Dell notebook computer, connects to his iPhone, and surfs to a NASA page on the internet where he calls up a GPS satellite navigation system to get an exact fix on his location, which he then feeds to another NASA satellite that scans the area in an ultra-high resolution photo. The young man then opens the digital photo in Adobe Photoshop and exports it to an image processing facility in Hamburg, Germany. Oh, gosh. Within seconds, he receives an email on his iPhone that the image has been processed and the data stored. He then accesses an MS SQL database, you techies out there will know what that is, through an ODBC connected Excel spreadsheet with an email on his Dell. And after a few minutes receives a response. Finally, he prints out a full color 150-page report on his high-tech miniaturized HP LaserJet printer and finally turns to the cowboy and says, "You have exactly 1,586 cows and calves." "That's right. Well, I guess you can take one of my calves," said the cowboy. He watches the young man select one of the animals and looks on amused as the young man stuffs it into the trunk of his car. Then the cowboy says to the young man, "Hey, if I can tell you exactly what your business is, will you give me back my calf?" The young man thinks about it for a second and then says, "Okay, why not?" "You're a U.S. congressman," says the cowboy. "Wow, that's correct," says the yuppie, "but how'd you guess that?" "No guessing required," answered the cowboy. "You showed up here even though nobody called you. You want to get paid for an answer I already know to a question I never asked. You tried to show me how much smarter than me you are, and you don't know a thing about cows. This is a herd of sheep. Now give me back my dog." Hey, Steve. Good morning. All right. Enough nonsense, I guess, but I kind of like it. All right. So I'm talking this morning about creation rather than control. If you were with me last week, and if not, the talk, thanks for the laugh emojis. I love it. If you weren't with me last week, it's archived on the Facebook page. It's also on YouTube. I don't know if I'm going to continue with YouTube. I'm really not getting many views on YouTube, so I'm not quite sure what that's about. But anyway, last week we learned that when we live from certain spiritual principles and we apply certain spiritual practices, and thirdly, then we leave the rest of it to God, to the divine, life can really work. And it really makes our life so much easier, even in those moments when it doesn't appear to. So today we're going to bring this topic to a close by talking about living from a certain spiritual principle and engaging in a certain spiritual practice, both of which lead us to leave the rest up to God. Both of which allow us, if you want to say that, or encourage us or move us in the direction of just simply leaving the rest to God. So the spiritual principle is the universe is a whole lot smarter than we are. That's a spiritual principle, to know and to remember. The universe is a whole lot smarter than we are. I think it was Marianne Williamson said, well, you can hook up with the power that created the heavens and the earth and all the planets that are in their orbits, or you can do it yourself. I love it, Marianne. A lot of times we try to do it ourselves. We don't partner with God. We don't hook up with God. And I think life is way harder that way, at least in my estimation, in my belief. Okay, so the spiritual principle is that the universe is a whole lot smarter than we are. And the spiritual practice is, well, we're going to get to that in just a moment. Yeah, little teaser there. The spiritual principle first. The universe is a whole lot smarter than we are. Now, I have a number of quotes, and generally I don't like to share a whole lot of quotes, but this morning, these are so wonderful. I want you all to be able to hear them. The universe is a whole lot smarter than we are, and intellectually, I think we get that. But I love what New Thought minister and author Ernest Holmes, who was the founder of Science of Mind, says in the Science of Mind book, we comprehend the meaning of infinite intelligence only to a small degree. And I would have to agree with him, because the way we struggle. Stuart Wilde, spelled W-I-L-D-E, he's got his angel wings, but he wrote a little book called Life Was Never Meant to Be a Struggle. Maybe I'll talk on that next week. I'm going to make a note. I do that often. because I'm going with my stream of consciousness here. Okay, maybe I'll continue. But it's a little tiny book. It's really wonderful. It's probably still in print. All right. We comprehend the meaning of infinite intelligence, but only to a very small degree. That's so true. But I'm asking you for a moment. Can you expand your view of the meaning of infinite intelligence? Do your best. Think about what the concept of infinite intelligence means to you. Now, if we were meeting together in a room, I'd pass the mic around and ask people, what does infinite intelligence mean to you? Or if we were in a Zoom meeting, but we're not. So just think about that. I would like you to. Holmes actually had more to say on this subject. Quote, "We comprehend the meaning of infinite intelligence only to a small degree, but because we are spiritual beings, we do sense the presence of an intelligence which is beyond human comprehension, an intelligence which is great enough to encompass the past, to understand the present, and to be the parent of the future. It is the cause of everything that has been, and is that out of which must unfold everything that is to be." There's a story of a convention of scientists where, after many papers and much discussion, they concluded that we now know all the secrets of life, thus God is not necessary. I'm guessing they were atheists, okay? One of the scientists is commissioned to tell this to God. The scientist gets an audience with God and tells her that God encompasses all genders. So God's not just a he. Actually, God's genderless. But for this story, the scientist gets an audience with God and tells her that she's no longer needed, since humans can now create life. Pretty apropos. God smiles and says, "Show me." The scientist bends over to pick up a handful of earth when God interrupts. "Oh no, get your own earth." Oh, that is so funny, but it's so profound. Our co-founder of the Unity Movement, Charles Fillmore, writes in a book called The Revealing Word, "The next great proclamation of scientific minds will be that one directive intelligence is an essential cause," I would say with a capital C, "an essential cause of the harmonious universe." And spiritually, this is a foundational belief in our teachings in Unity. Yeah. I'll say it again. The great proclamation of scientific minds will be that one directive intelligence is an essential cause of the harmonious universe. Wow. So let's embody that idea and let's take it deeper this morning with this statement. And you can certainly adopt this as an affirmation. It's a wonderful affirmation. Divine intelligence is the ultimate creative agency of the universe, and it knows more than I do. I'll say it again. Divine intelligence is the ultimate creative agency of the universe, and it knows more than I do. And there's a second piece to this spiritual principle, critically important to our equation of creating a life that works without all the striving and struggling and controlling. And it's this: even though this infinite intelligence knows more than I do, it lives, moves, and has its being as me, and it works through me. I mean, you've seen those prayers out there. I know you have, that says, my hands are the hands of God, my feet are the feet of God, my eyes see with the eyes of God. So that's what we're talking about here. This infinite intelligence has to have a way to be in this world, and it is through each of us as expressions of it. Yes. So please affirm with me. Infinite intelligence lives in me, works through me, and creates as me. Infinite intelligence lives in me, works through me, and creates as me. What a wonderful affirmation. Wow. So, if this is the spiritual principle, okay, this two-part thing about, yes, it knows more than I do, but it works through me, okay? If this is the spiritual principle, then what is the spiritual practice? Hey, some of you might know. You want to put it up on the screen, you're welcome to. I just have to move into the camera to see what you're writing. What do you think would be the spiritual practice? Well, I must tell you, I mentioned it earlier, it's letting go of control. But let's change direction for just a moment because I want to expand on all of this. What is the one thing that we do have control over? And you may or may not know this. The one thing that we do have control over is our consciousness. So you say, well, what about our consciousness? Okay, our own consciousness happens to be a combination of 8 different things that I've written out here today for you. Our consciousness consists of our thoughts and our spoken words, primarily, okay? But these thoughts and feelings impacts our feelings. So our consciousness consists of thoughts and words, which we bring to every experience, and it impacts our feelings, which then shapes our attitudes, our beliefs, and our values. And so naturally, if it impacts our attitudes, beliefs, and values, what happens is it informs, or it causes, if you will, our behaviors, our actions and our reactions, our behaviors. This is how it works. I want to share a story with you this morning. Do you remember the movie The Robe? It was back in the 50s, I think 1953. It starred Richard Burton and Gene Simmons. It tells the story of a Roman military tribune who commanded the unit that crucified Jesus. So there's an interesting story in regard to the making of the robe to be worn in the movie by the character Jesus. And I want to share that story with you this morning because it really demonstrates what we're talking about here this morning. The real robe that Jesus wore was seamless. You remember they cast dice to try to win it. It was so valuable. So to preserve authenticity, a professional hand weaver and her daughter were hired to make this garment on their loom. It was to be an authentic reproduction for those traditionally worn in Judea at the time of Jesus. The actual weaving took 36 hours, and the weaver and her daughter felt it to be a sacred task. The robe completed, they were about to deliver it to the studio with just 16 hours left to meet the producer's deadline for receiving it. But a disaster occurred. The small son of the weaver's daughter was seen with a pair of scissors in one hand and a fragment of the precious fabric in the other. They had not seen him pick up the scissors and take a cut out of the robe. Well, what to do now? What to do? Distraught, they prayed about finding a speedy replacement. Oh, that's an interesting concept to pray about it. Okay. And although there was obviously not nearly enough time left for them to complete a duplicate, they surrendered their preconceived notion of what could and could not be done. They let go, and they began immediately to weave another seamless robe. Incredibly, 9 hours later, the work was finished, as beautiful as the first. Wow. Well, you might say they had practiced, so it took them less time on the second, the replacement, but not so. Because they were absolutely astonished at the short time it took for the replacement, they decided to make a third to see how long it would take. And they worked as rapidly as they could to create yet a third robe. But this one took 36 hours, just as had the first one. That's a true story. I think that's incredible. I love hearing these kinds of things. They really show me that God is teaching us in so many different ways, so many spiritual principles. What a powerful example of creation rather than control. A woman named Diane Harmony writes in the book, 5 Gifts for an Abundant Life. Quote, when we let go and let God, we are in the midst of a spiritual practice so powerful that the core beliefs that have held us captive and small can be dismantled. Resistance to our good can melt away. Fear of the unknown can be shattered. A sense of oneness with God and all life can be embodied. And a whole new world of infinite possibilities can open up for us. Just simply letting go and letting God, all those wonderful things can happen. Here's a great affirmation for you. As I let go and let God, a whole new world of infinite possibilities opens for me. As I let go and let God, a whole new world of infinite possibilities opens up for me, for you, for, say the person's name, affirm it for them. So we rely on the spiritual principle that there is an intelligence in this universe infinitely greater than ours, but that we are immersed and one with it. And it is ready and standing ready always to create through and as us and for us. So we say, infinite intelligence lives in me, works through me, and creates as me. Wow. And so then we engage in the spiritual practice, after we've spoken that truth, of letting go to it, knowing we are safe and we are loved and we are protected and provided for. And we say, as I let go and let God, a whole new world of infinite possibilities opens up for me. And this sounds a whole lot like trusting God. So, let's see what I wanted to share with you, if I can find it before I close this morning. Yeah, got my notes here. So, leaving the rest to God, in other words, trusting God. When we do this, we create a life in which we feel deeply connected to Source. That's another word for God. We have dynamic, vibrant, and radiant health. We are in the flow financially. Capital C, coincidences just happen. We have loving, solid relationships. We are at peace and we are happy. We are living free of addiction. We are joyously sharing our talents and our gifts. Isn't this a marvelous list I came up with here? We love the work we do. We are serving and giving to others. We have care and compassion for others. We are living in the now moment. When you trust God, you can forget about the past. You can stop worrying about the future, and you can live in the now moment. If for no other reason than trusting God, do it for that reason. Because the now moment is where all creation takes place. The now moment is where it's all happening. Not in the past. That plane has left the runway. All right? Okay. When we let go and let God and just start viewing the creation taking place within us, versus the control that our ego wants to have, then we are creating a life without all the struggling. And I have to tell you, that sounds pretty darn good to me. I hope you like it. Well, that's it for this morning's topic. And I may look up Stuart Wild's little book, Life Was Never Meant to Be a Struggle, and see if we can talk about that next week. I've got it right here in the notes that I wrote to myself. And so what we're going to do now is to say the prayer for protection with one another. And then I'll talk to you about the song that I'm closing out with this morning. Okay? Which I hope you like. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. And wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And we are one with that power and that presence and that protection. And so it is. Amen. Hope you have a really great week next week. Thanks for the heart emojis. Love you too. All right. The song I chose to close with today is taken from Ricky Byers, Beckwith, and her, at that time, the Agape choir that she was leading. And it's called Pour Yourself in Me. And she will lead you through the stanzas. Love you too, Belinda. She will lead you through the stanzas that say, gosh, I had it written down yesterday, but I have no idea what I did with the little piece of paper. I had it all on. But it'll be easy to follow, I'm pretty sure. Okay? And so here we go. Pour yourself in me. And it's one of those rounds or repetitive kind of, or mantra kind of songs. It's a better way to put it. my goodness. I love that song. Pour yourself in me. Dance and smile in me. Pour your love in me. Pour your joy in me. Oh, wow. No better affirmation than that. Thank you, Ricky, for all your beautiful talents and sharing from your heart with us, your gifts. So I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. I hope you were singing along. I try not to sing out loud too much. I'm just kind of whispering because I don't want to, I'm obviously not a vocalist. So anyway. So I love you too, Belinda. You're a wonderful spirit too. And I'm glad that Steve was with us. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. Okay, I'll see you next week. And it'll be a surprise because a lot of times it's a surprise to me what I'll be talking about. I love you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye.